Definition. Used often to describe something. Used in a sentence. I never thought of it this way before, but most emotions that aren't accompanied by a smile are somewhat sidestepped in conversations. In situations such as these, the word tired has proven quite proverbial. These tell-all 5 letters are all you need to deny your feelings and make sure everyone around you does the same. 2. Turpitude. Definition. A vile or depraved act. Used in a sentence. There is no turpitude greater than the fading of oneself for the sharpening of others. 3. Toxin. Spelling. T-O-C-S-I-N. Definition. An alarm. Used in a sentence. I wake up to toxins every morning, most of which I have set for myself. 4. Abeyance. Definition. A state of temporary disuse or suspension. Used in a sentence. An abeyance of my voice is a loss of it. You know that time period between sleep and consciousness? That moment when you lie in the dark staring at the ceiling, or the floor, or in my case the top bunk, and think about nothing and sometimes everything. Dormancy and tranquility pleasantly find themselves, thus making it easier for them to find each other. And in that moment you are within and without. Without coming up for air, you drift into the ever-stretching tide, pulled into a body of waterless plants, growing sideways across your mind, fastening it into a dream, or darkness, or whatever is on the agenda for that night. The landless flight, a traipse into helplessness. I lived in this time period for 3 months. Attempts at feeling and progression were in vain. The vines of my consciousness wrapped around my mind until all I could feel was tight, and tight felt numb, but mainly confined. I learned to stretch my arms only as far as I could, and to exist with one hand perpetually pocketed, with the other ready to retreat on any occasion. I was ready to retreat on any occasion, from others and from myself. So much so that my thoughts became estranged from the pens I held day after day, pages demanding to be felt but depraved each day. Rations came in small quantities and far apart, and they all tasted the same. For the first time in months, I feel something. For the last time in months, I am numb. There is not an exact time when one stops and the other begins, but if there were, I would be there at this moment. I wish I had better control over words. I wish my hands could craft them into mountains and mold them into legacies. My pen molds letters into clans that seem to rival one another, each fighting for its place in my narrative. There's only so much to say, but at the same time, there's more than enough. And sometimes my thoughts are helium-filled, high-pitched screams hanging over my head, popping themselves onto paper, while other times they're 6 feet under the weight of my every hesitation. And I venture out in search of a middle ground, but sometimes it feels like the extremes are the safest places to rely on. I've been taught to fear mediocrity and to give my all or nothing, but that becomes difficult when after all I'm left with nothing. I want to measure myself out in increments. There exists in this world a need to know. For most, it's a need to know what to do. It's okay to not know. Most of us don't know that. There exists in this world a need to fill in spaces. For most, it's the gap between our possessions and what we want. We all seem bent on chasing the latter, but it's okay to stand still. Most of us don't know that. There exists in this world a need to move. Stagnation equals confusion equals inferiority equals doubt. But standing still also reflects stability and wholeness of thought. It's okay to have nothing to feel, but it's not okay to not feel nothing. To feel nothing. Most of us don't know that. There exists in this world a need to be remembered. To fade is to dwindle, is to become less. But sometimes fading just means you've surfaced from your hardship, and in the process you gave some of your color away. Most of us don't know that. There exists in this world a need to be secure. Security comes from one place. Most of us don't know that.